Alright everybody, today we're going to build a little bit of a Visual Basic GUI program here. Well, the start of it anyway. So, to get it started, we just need to make a new project. I've already got one here, but I'll just go ahead and make a new one anyway. And we want it to be Visual Basic Windows Form app. And I'm just going to call this whatever the book tells me to call it, which in this case is Latte Selection. Like so. Now, we can call it kind of whatever we want. Make sure you save it to a location that you want to keep it in. Next. And I am using 2019, which is a little different than 2017 if you're using the older version. I think the older version has all this kind of on one window, but I'm just going to leave this as it is, and I'm going to create. And Latte Selection, which is just going to be basically a blank form for right now. Now you'll see on the right, we've got the solution Latte Selection, project, form, that's what this is. So, I've already got my toolbox with all my items over here, and you're welcome to open and hide any of those if you need to, but I'm just going to leave the common one up with the things we're going to use the most of. Now, I've already kind of gone through where everything is, so we're just going to start putting things together for the most part. So, now this is what the form currently looks like. You see it's fairly sizable. There's a minimize, maximize, close button. I can, of course, resize this. And as I've got it clicked, I've got my properties over here with things like sizes and location and color and other things. So, if you don't have the toolbar here, you can go up to View and just find Toolbox. If you click the little auto hide here, it'll hide it so you can kind of have a little more space to work with. I honestly just prefer to have it up here, so I'm going to kind of lock it over here. Play with all the little tools and doodads so you can kind of get used to how all this works. And if anything's not here that you think should be on the screen, most of it is here under View. The Solution Explorer that you see here, you can right-click and get the properties, or come over here, and that should show up. And this is the output for some things if you output it to the screen. So. Now, ChapterWorks actually fairly quick, but it'll be a little slower because I'm going to be explaining stuff as we go through it. In previous class and video, I've explained kind of where everything is, so this one will be us actually putting all those things to use. So, let's get started, shall we? We've already gone through most of what they kind of ask us to do here. I'm actually in Chapter 2 here for those who are looking at the book. At least Chapter 2 of the current book. And the first several pages just kind of explain where everything is, which I should have already done. So, now, the first thing we're going to want to do is change the name. Notice it just says Form 1 up here at the title. I honestly don't want this just to say Form 1, so we're going to change it to Latte Selection. So we just have to go over here and look for the text. Let's see, it should say Form 1 on it. I probably scrolled right by it. There it is. And we're going to call this Latte Selection. And I changed that text. That should change this up here to Latte Selection. That's the title of my window. So, voila. So that's the first step, just changing that. We also want to change the size. So we'll need to scroll on down until we find basically how we can adjust the size of this thing. Now, if we go down, you'll see there's a size property, and it is 816 by 489. That may be different for you, depending. The book has it set to 730 by 700. So I'll just follow what the book wants. And we'll just kind of leave everything else as it is. And I'll click, and it should adjust the size of this window a bit. 730, 700. That's what it says. So we move over to the next one. Now we're going to start adding stuff to my screen here. And again, your screen may look a little different than mine. It depends on how everything's kind of set up. So the first thing we're going to want is a label or two. We're going to be building this kind of latte coffee screen with some buttons. We'll click on it and it loads up a couple of pictures. That's the final end product of it anyway. We're not going to quite get that far, I think, in this video. But so I want a label. That's going to be under one of these. If you just click all, it'll have everything there pretty much. But I'm just going to hunt for just specifically the label. Now I want to throw that on my screen. So I just click somewhere, it'll add it. Now this label, obviously I don't want it to be label 1. So we're going to have to change a couple of things about it. We can change the name, we can change the size, we can change its location, we can change the text that's being displayed here. There's a lot of little settings we'll probably have to adjust. So I can move it on my screen, just pretty much wherever I need it to be, adjust the size of the font, all that good stuff. So let's start with one of the first settings they asked us to change. We're going to change the name. Now, if we go down here, we should see this is going to be called label 1. So we just scroll until we find. Now the text is label 1. That's not the name, though. That's just the text that's being displayed. The name itself should also actually be label 1. We just need to find it. Normally it should be near the top. Let's see if I can hunt it down here. There we go, name. Design, name. Now, most of any kind of programming is just getting a feel for where everything is. The more you do it, the easier it is to find stuff. So my label is here. I want this to be called LBL heading. That's going to be the name of this. So LBL heading. And we're around page 39 in the book for those who are following along. So I just changed that, and that changes the name of this. So later, if I need to adjust something in code or something, then it'll be fine. I can refer to that name. You don't want to keep it label 1, label 2, label 3, because that's going to be horrendously confusing, particularly later on. You kind of want to name everything whatever it is. This is a label, and it's a heading, so we're going to keep that. That's going to be the heading actually for like my whole program for the most part. So we're going to have to adjust a couple more little options here. So let's go ahead and do that. The actual text will be latte selection. So if I scroll up just a bit, we've got text here underneath this appearance tab, font tab, text. There we go. And I'll just call it latte selection. And that'll change the actual text here to the words latte selection. Now I just simply have to make a couple more little adjustments. Let's see here. Now I can actually come here and give it multiple items here. Like I can select multiple different labels by clicking the little drop down here. We need to adjust the font size and font and all that stuff to this. If you remember just a moment ago, we saw font up here. And there's a whole list of items that I open it up. That we can change the size, we can change the actual font, or I can just click this dotted line here and it'll bring open the window for me to do it here too. So there's a couple of different places we could do things here with. We're going to make it according to what they want. So they want this to be, I'll scroll on down, come on, go too fast. There it is, Tahoma, bold, and size 16. So it's going to be a bit bigger, going to be a slightly different font. I think we'll just leave everything else as it is. We'll hit OK. And my font gets a little bit bigger there. Bravo, look at us. Now I'm noticing one thing here. I definitely changed the size of this, but I'm noticing that this window is actually much bigger than the one that's showing in the book. Doesn't particularly matter, I think. I set it to the size it wanted, but will survive. Let's see. Font. Just double check. Size. Layout. Well, pretty sure we changed it to the size that they wanted. We'll just keep it as it is. My resolution's quite high on this thing, so that may be attributing to why it's a little bit different. Alright, so we got latte selection, and we can move this thing around on my screen, like so. Boop. I'm just going to leave it in the center for now. We can also do a couple of things up here where we can align stuff and move it around, whatever. Align it to the left, center it. All those are options up here. I believe edit. We can also copy paste if we had more labels. Honestly, it's just better just to make a new window instead of copy and paste unless you really, really need to. So, we've got it. Font-wise, we move on to the next topic here. So, there it is, format. That's what I was looking for. Format, align, center to grid, you know, we can do a couple of different things here. For some odd reason, it's not highlighting it for me. Let's see, I've got this highlighted to grid. I'm uncertain why it's not highlighted. I'm sure it's something I haven't done, but we'll be fine. It should pretty much lock into place. You should see even kind of guidelines here. So we'll just kind of leave that in the center there. It doesn't have to be completely perfect for what we're doing here anyway. We're just kind of getting used to the whole mechanism and how everything works. So, we move on to the next topic. We've got our label at the top. So we need to add a couple more things. So first and foremost, we'll add a couple of picture boxes. And this is going to eventually load up some pictures when we click some buttons. So, picture box. And I'll just drop that over here somewhere. And of course, I can resize and edit and do whatever it is I need to do. But for us, we'll just, instead of clicking it and dragging it, and you could do it this way if you want. Just kind of eyeball it. But if you want a specific size, you can just come over here to the properties. There's the location, there's the size. I'm just going to go with what the book wants, as per usual. 300 by 250. So we'll go with 300, 250. And like that. And I probably need to move this over to the left a little bit. I'm going to say, right about in there is fine. And this is a little picture box. It means it can hold a picture later. So we've got that there. Now we need a second one. And we just pretty much do the same thing. I click picture box, I drop it over here, boop. I come down and I go to the size again. And we'll adjust it the same way we did a second ago, which was 300 by 250. 250. And this one went a little off the screen. We'll just drag it back on. And notice that it actually has a little alignment tool here to make sure that it's aligned with this. So there we go. 2 picture boxes. 2 picture boxes. Now there are a couple of other options here. Like if I can click on this, press Control, I can highlight multiple things. Oh, look at that. We can, now we got stuff. I can adjust the width, height of both of these things, make equal. I can do all sorts of fun stuff. Centering it. You can even make them the same size, width, height, which they already are, so I don't really need to do that, but yeah. So we got 2 picture boxes. We're all situated. Now if you want to see what happens, let me just shrink that down again. I'm just going to highlight this, press Control, highlight that. And I'm just going to go ahead and make the same size both. There we go, so I don't have to go in there and edit it if you wanted to do it that way. This is one of those options where you could literally change this 3 different ways and it would end up with the same result. So, alright, so we got 2 picture boxes. We're pretty much ready to go there. So let's move on to the next thing. Everything's pretty much aligned, so there's really no worry with anything else there. Now, we got all this stuff. Looks about right. Oh, we could, of course, center all this too. That probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Align centers. Let's see what that does. Oh, whoops. Nope. Not what I want to do. Undo. Where were we? Format. Align. Tops. Oh, I see. If I select both of these, it's going to put them both to the center. Make the same size. Vertical spacing. Let's go with center inform vertically. Center inform horizontally. There we go. My headset cuts off if it doesn't produce any sound after like 15 minutes or something. So, we're kind of in the center of this thing. Yeah, I think this is fine. So we'll leave it as it is. Doesn't quite look like the books, but that's okay. My computer is a little different, so. And this is also a slightly older version that I'm kind of going by. So now we need to drop in a couple of buttons. Pretty simple. There's button. Oh, and I may want to change the name of these two. By default, these picture boxes are just going to be picture box 1, picture box 2, most likely. Let's see if I can find the name of it. Let's see, where are you? Behavior, data, design, layout, padding, and we can minimize some of these things if we need to. Image location, well, we don't have an image for it yet, so that doesn't really matter. I don't know. I don't actually see a name for these at the moment in my screen. Theoretically, everything should have a name, but it has been a while since I've played with Visual Basic, so I'm probably just missing one little detail. Well, for now, we're not even really going to be using these. We're just setting it up, so it should be fine. And actually, now that I think about it, later on, once we put an image in here, we can just basically disable and enable it. We probably don't even need to really have a specific name for it. That does irritate me. I think every item on here should have a name. Well, let's continue onward, since the book didn't even tell us to name it anyway. I'm just thinking it would be a good idea if there was a name for it. Which, oh wait, you know, it might be a good idea if I just select one of these instead of 2. That's probably why I can't find the name. Because I've got 2 of them selected, yes. There we go. No matter how good you are at anything, programming or whatever, you're bound to screw up at some point. Now, this is called Picture Box 1, and this is the Picture Box 2. And I don't believe they told us to change the names of any of these, so I suppose we'll just keep it the same. Although I'm going to say ideally, in an ideal world, you don't want it to just be the default name. I would honestly change this to, you know, whatever these end up being. They're not just picture boxes. They're going to have specific things in them. So I might say, you know, coffee picture 1, coffee picture 2. But something a little more substantial than just picture box or label. This is the label heading. But since the book doesn't request it, we're just going to avoid that for now. Maybe later we'll have to change this. So let's go ahead and add our button. There we go. And I'll drop it over here. And I don't know why it's defaulting to button 2, to be perfectly honest, but we don't have any other buttons on here. But that's fine, because we're going to change that text and name and everything anyway. So I've got a button. We're going to rename it. So if we come over here, we should see name. It's called button 2. Well, this is going to be the pumpkin spice button. Basically, we're going to have a couple of different coffees that are going to pop up depending on what button we click. So I'm going to first change the text, then we'll come back to the name. But let's see, there's the text. And this shall be pumpkin spice. And you'll see, well, pumpkin's there, but notice spice isn't. I may need to resize that button a little bit. And I could do that here too, with the sizes and everything, but just dragging that's probably a little easier, honestly. So I'll just drop the pumpkin spice here, just kind of line it up. Now, we've got our text. It is called button 2, so I probably want it to be a slightly better name than that, I would assume. But again, I am just kind of following the book here. And they don't really tell us what they want it to be, but I'm going to assume, for the moment, that the name should also be pumpkin spice. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw in the name pumpkin spice. So the name will be pumpkin spice as well. Oh, well, I have a space. Now, normally, naming conventions, actually, this would start with like BTN button. LBL would be label. So I'll just try to use the naming conventions, and if I screwed up, we'll fix it later. This will be pumpkin spice. I'll just call it BTN pumpkin spice. Now, it complained a minute ago because I put a space in it. And it does not like spaces in names of things. When you're dealing with programming, any programming language, you can't have a space in a name. Because each thing is named, and it starts, it has an end, and if there's a space, they consider those two different things. So, I've got my pumpkin spice. And I made the button a little bigger. I could make it a little fatter too. We could adjust the font on it if we wanted to. For now, we'll just leave it as it is. Now we need another button to go under this window. So I'll just drop that button over here. And again, it defaults to button 2 for some reason. We'll just go ahead and change the name of this. I think this is going to be Mocha, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll just go ahead and change this to the name to BTN Mocha. And then I'll scroll down and find the, or scroll up rather, find the text. And I'm going to call this Mocha. So there we go, pumpkin spice Mocha. Now I can go ahead and drop this over here, kind of line it up with that if I want to. If I want to resize it so it's similar size, I can do that too. You'll see the little bar there helps me out a bit. There we go. Kind of like that slightly fatter button there. There we go. So now we got 2 buttons. Hooray! 1, 2. And again, this doesn't look specifically like the book, but it's pretty close. I mean, that's good enough. I'm not going to pull out a ruler and make sure it is correct within the millimeter. So, as long as most of it's there and it looks pretty close, that's fine. Especially if they give you some vague description of what they want. So, we got 2 buttons, pumpkin spice and Mocha. Hooray. So now we've got this GUI window that doesn't really do much. I can run it, hopefully, and we'll see an example of it. Oh, suspicious file detected. Is that right? Don't know why latte selection is suspicious, but I'll just kind of leave that there. Alright, well, pumpkin spice, Mocha. Oh, well, it's loading up again. Because, hey, look at that. ABG said my program was not a virus. That's good to know. Well, pumpkin spice and Mocha don't do anything, obviously, because I haven't programmed them to do anything. The 2 picture boxes you notice aren't there. You don't see them. They're not doing anything yet. Eventually, we're going to get to the point to where I click a button, a picture loads up here. I click a button, another picture loads up here. That's essentially what we're looking for. And this tells us how much memory it's using, a couple other little details, processor. We're not really doing anything other than just displaying on a form. If I start clicking and doing stuff, it might change a couple of things, but for the most part, that's it there, right? So we built our basic kind of skeleton for this. Now, to push it a little further, we have to, of course, add a little more functionality. We have to add a couple more buttons, I think. So from the look of things, what we're going to be doing next is adding the rest of this. So we're going to have an exit button, which we technically already have that there, but just to know how that works, we'll add one of those. And one more little button. We'll have, of course, we've got pumpkin spice and mocha, right? Well, we can have a button in the middle that kind of clears that out if you want. So, for this particular video, we're going to pause here, and we'll continue on in the next videos. So, until next time.